So good morning to all of you. Right. Okay, it's my tremendous privilege to be able to share with you on this topic. I'm no expert in sustainability. All I have done in my life is to observe on the space what is happening in the commercial world, what I know in terms of the university, and also in terms of teaching. I do a little bit of sustainability or carbon accounting teaching. Right. So what I'd like to do today is to provide a framework for us to approach the management of the stakeholders, all right, on sustainability matters. I'll share with you from a academic perspective or from a stakeholder what I would like to see the universities doing. I would like to also provide you with some information and knowledge on what other Asian universities have been doing, and particularly also to pick up one or two of what the Philippine universities are doing. And then finally, I would like to consider the possible activities which universities can think about, can work on to embark on this sustainability journey. So the importance of stakeholder engagement or sustainability for universities. You see, the universities do not exist alone, in the sense that we exist in an ecosystem. And within this ecosystem, we constantly have to ask ourselves the question, what then is the role of universities, right? And what then is the role of universities vis-a-vis sustainability? And how can we ensure that our stakeholders come on board with us concerning this sustainability journey? So these are some of my possible arguments, right? The importance of stakeholder engagement has always to come from the fact that universities are thought leaders in sustainability research, right? If you look at the entire landscape, universities are one of the key parties or key players in the whole of the world or in each country where their primary role or one of the primary role is to do research. And sustainability being an earth-threatening event, an existentialist event as it is, the universities have the responsibility to be thought leaders in conducting research that allows us to stay at the cutting edge. And don't forget too, universities are one of the key educators for owners of the earth, right? As a faculty myself, I'm constantly propelled by the passion every day when I go to work or I stand in front of the class. I'm teaching the next generation of leaders who will inherit the earth, who will determine for me the kind of retirement I'm going to have. Right? So we, the universities, are one of the key educators for the owners of the earth. And universities are important models as sustainability advocates. As the saying is well said, right? Seeing is doing, and many of us will learn by examples. The students that we taught must believe that universities are not just educators, we are advocates, we are practitioners, we are models for them to look at, to see the world of sustainability from a lens of knowledge, a lens of being educated. I'd like to believe too that universities, because of our interface with community, because of our involvement in the industry, because we sit at the frontier of research in terms of sustainability, and also because of the way where we train our students, right? We are consolidators of sustainability ideas and practices. Think about it from the perspective that the student that we taught sustainability knowledge today, they will henceforth take those knowledge to apply them into the world in which they are captains of industries, right? So we are the consolidators. We infuse the students. We infuse the community. We liaise with basically the industry in order to push forth the sustainability ideas and practices. And I like to believe in using modern terminology that the universities are sustainability key influencers in society and community. We influence society by the way we push out our sustainability knowledge into layman's language concerning how it will influence their behavior, influence their shopping and buying behavior, influence their consumption behavior, influence the way that they will look at trash, look at water, look at electricity consumption, and what have you for that matter, right? So I'd like to lay very clearly the important role that the university needs to play in order to bring all these stakeholders on board. Moving forward too, this privilege responsibility also comes with it the obligations. What are the obligations of the universities? The obligations of the university is that we need to fulfill the expectation from the stakeholders that the university is the bastion, is the champion of sustainability, that we practice sustainability. How do we practice sustainability? One, that we enhances the educational experiences in sustainability for our students. We not only give them the knowledge, we give them the passion, we give them the involvement in the projects. We bring them into the society, into the commercial world, into the industry, and allow these students to see what they can do with the world in which they are going to inherit. Right? So if I jump to the fourth point, before I jump back to the third point, the other dimension that we need to understand too as our obligations is that it is an opportunity for us to further enhance the relevance of the universities in the realities of the community, the society, and the world. So this is where I take a position saying that the university is not merely about just publication or doing research. Our publication, our research and education, at the end of the day, must influence realities. We must change the way the community, the society, and the world works. We must be able to reinvent the realities for them or set them into a path in which we're able to show them how we can work together to build us a much better world, right? So one of the interesting things that has happened in the last 20, 25 years or so is that the world has created an interesting mechanism to allow us to see whether the universities are actually fulfilling the roles that they are supposed to be fulfilling. It is not perfect. They created this what is so-called university ranking agencies. And these university ranking agencies, with the noble goal of allowing us to track how the universities are progressing, not just nationally based on whatever the government or their Ministry of Education deem them as doing their role. They compile together what they expect global universities, education think tanks should be performing, should be doing in their roles in terms of educating the people, in terms of research, in terms of innovation, in terms of service to the community, right? So one way of looking at the university's ranking agency is that it is almost like a necessary evil as it is. Because remember, I'm an accountant. The thought pattern is always very clear in the accounting world. Whatever cannot be measured, it is very hard for us to track its performance and its progress. Whatever cannot be measured and informed to the people, the likelihood is that people do not really know whether they're progressing or not progressing because there is no yardstick as it is. The presenter in the earlier session tells us very clear that the Philippines, the United Nations, created SDGs. And in creating the SDGs, 17 of them, it is not merely just concept, but they also created indicators to allow us to measure the progress of the nations towards achieving the 17 SDGs. So the university ranking agencies allows us and gives us this so-called opportunity, right, as a necessary evil to help us with an external pressure to bring us to world best practices concerning how the university should be looking at the way it conducts its work to fulfill its mission. So with this is where I'm going to capitalize part of the talk. Let's take an example. QS, all right? Sustainability rankings was established in October 2022. What does it do? It is a relative benchmarking for universities on doing the most to tackle the world's greatest environmental, social, and governance challenges. In a very simple thought pattern, it asks the question, what are the universities doing with regards to the environmental and the social sustainability responsibilities? Right. So it created a whole bunch of metrics and to be able to measure those universities and rank them alongside each other. You see, the reality is this. You don't have to play the ranking game, but you know that in this ranking game, right? I call it a ranking game. There are consequences because the universities, for example, like UST, right? You want to be a global university. You want to be a university where you're able primarily to say that we are the top in the nation. We are ranked #1 in the world. So for your information, right? Philippines has hundreds of probably thousands of universities, I think. UST is ranked #4, right? You are just behind Universities of Philippines, Ateneo de Manila, and de La Salle. You are #4. And that actually communicates significantly the quality of who you are. I mean, not just locally, hopefully internationally too. So this is a QS sustainability ranking. What are the these are the possible measurements. You look at the sustainable institutions, 35%, sustainable education, 40%, sustainable research. Right. So in this sense, it also crafted out what are some of the guiding principles in the sense of the assessment. For example, in sustainable institution, it asks a basic question: what are you doing institutionally for environmental impact? Right? Are you part and parcel of holding membership in officially recognized climate action or sustainability group? Do you as a university publish commitment to becoming net zero? Right? Has student societies formed on environmental sustainability matters? That means institutionally, are you doing anything? And what are you doing? The second two dimension is what are the most critical role of the university? Sustainable education. What are the alumni outcomes and academic reputation within Earth, Marine, and Environmental Sciences courses? What are the courses available? Do you have research center dedicated to environmental sustainability? And then when it comes to research, are your research activities around the UN SDG goals? And whether government is funding and development in those sustainability research. You see, immediately, if you want to look for a framework that helps you to calibrate where the university should be moving in terms of its sustainability performance, its sustainability contribution, I'd like to suggest kill two birds with one stone. Look at what the ranking agency, which is on a global basis, has agreed. This is what we think is good for the universities. And then we use that as a framework rather than you try to run all over the place to determine for yourself what the framework and structure should be. Moving forward to, these are the social impact. Very simple thought pattern. Equality, knowledge exchange, impact of education, employability and opportunities, quality of life. And so it creates also all those indicators. If you look carefully at those indicators, these are things that UST has always been doing, right? So it's a matter for you all to sharpen your mind, sharpen your metrics, sharpen your bookkeeping and accountability and record keeping, and then to be able to put them on track to allow you to track them over time, right? So this is your scorecard, right? This is the QS 2025 ranking of the universities from the dimension of the research and discovery, learning experience, employability of your students, global engagement, and sustainability. I'm not here to discourage you, but what I've done is that I have placed side by side, just on a limited basis, the National University of Singapore, right? The University of Philippines in terms of the research and discovery and learning experience, right? Each of these boxes are actually graded out of 100 as it is. So immediately, one school of thought is to say that we probably can see these as a possible scorecard that allows us to say, all right, our academic reputation, we probably can improve. It's 12.8, or citations per faculty is 1.3. All right, while citations per faculty for NUS is 93.1. Philippines being the University of Philippines being the top university, the citation is 1.9 as it is. So immediately it created what is so-called almost like a kind of healthy competition. But it also tells you very clearly which are the metrics dimension that you can work on in order to rise in the ranking, in order to be noticed as it is. You see, the ranking game, you see, when I was in NUS, I've done the ranking game probably 20, 25 years ago. right? When I was a director of MBA, when I was a vice dean, we knew that we have to enter this in order to allow us to profile the good works that we're doing. We believe in ourselves. We, for World Ranking, we are doing well. We are doing our very best. But we would like to also believe if we're doing our very best, why not let an external agency show forth how good we are? Just like QS is able to tell the whole of Philippines, right? The University of Santo Tomas is number 4 in the entire place as it is, right? So this is what I hope will encourage us rather than discourage us, or rather than make us become cynical concerning, oh, it's just another game as it is. So let me turn quickly to another very important ranking, called the Higher Education University Impact Ranking. What does it seek to do? This is slightly different from QS, and it is very clear down exactly what you're doing in terms of UST. It seeks to identify universities that excel across multiple United Nations SDGs and their comprehensive excellence in contributing to global sustainable development. And later on, I'll show you the metrics. They know that you cannot be good in all 17 of them. So it created a platform to allow the university also to specialize. It measures the university's commitment in terms of whether you are a global citizen in dealing with world's environmental sustainability, social inclusion, economic growth, and partnership. And at the end of the day, it recognizes universities for their impact on the various dimensions of sustainable development, right? And your contributions to create a sustainable and resilient future. All right, these are all words. So what does that mean? So this is how the methodology works. It focused, number one, on SDG 17. How are you partnering with the rest of the world in terms of the pursuit of the goals of SDG? So that alone is weighing 22%. The weight reflects the university's effort in fostering robust international partnership and cooperation for achieving our SDGs. It clearly sent a signal that no university stands alone. We are embedded within the ecosystem nationally and internationally. For any university to cut off its international wing or its willingness to collaborate with other parties at universities, that is madness. So when I was at NUS, we were very clear, even currently when I'm in City University, we are very clear. We are always involved with other universities on a collaborative competition, right? We are competitive in nature, but yet we are collaborative, believing and knowing that we cannot get the job done by ourselves. The second dimension of this methodology is that it asks a university, you specialize on 3 of the SDG. 3 top SDG will score you 26% each, with 22% add up to 100, and to see how do you do. What are the focus areas of assessment? Very clear. What the universities were always set up to do. Your research. You are a steward. How do you do your stewardship? You reach out to the community. And then finally, teaching. The key dimension and the role and responsibility of university. So one way to think about it is actually is providing you a framework to do things that you have always been doing. So all you need to do right now is to sharpen your measurement, sharpen your record keeping, ensure that the SDG gives you a anchor. So let's give a simplest example. Every one of your course, right, should have a thought pattern to say, how does any one of my course, managerial accounting, contribute to any of the SDG goals? Right? You see what I mean? So you see, as educators, we don't think like this. But now that we have given a frame of reference, we can start thinking from that kind of thought pattern. Carbon accounting. I teach carbon accounting, and it is very clear. In the SDG, carbon accounting will deal with pollution. Right, will deal with making the world better, with environmental control, and so have you. So it forces us as educators or researchers to basically ask a fundamental question: which SDG goal are we fulfilling in the work that we're doing? Rather than the work that we're doing is whatever I feel like doing, or whatever that's publishable for that matter. Right. So these are your scorecard in terms of the time ranking as it is. So I've broken them up for you into various spaces. I think at the top two at the screen is the teaching and your research quality. These are for one of the important indicators. So by having a scorecard in this nature, immediately gives you some understanding. In terms of teaching, the score has fallen from 67 to 64.4. But in terms of research, it has increased significantly from 25.8 to 33.6. And then you have the rest of them that also concerns teaching. All right. Okay. Sorry, your teaching. Sorry. Sorry. The top part here. Oh, sorry. The top part here is the teaching research environment, not teaching. Your teaching has indeed increased from 19.6 to 19.8, right? At the bottom left hand panel, right? And so on and so forth. So all these indicators allows you to consider how are you doing, where are you going, and how the world sees you in terms of your impact and contributions. All right. So these are the SDG goals, which I don't have to cover, but immediately these give you a frame of reference. In every one of your research, in every one of your course, you ask yourself, which component of the SDG goals are you fulfilling? Recently, I applied for a research grant from a university in Malaysia. Since I was a visiting professor there, they asked whether I could join them to apply for research grant. Every year, apply for a research grant. In part of the application, the research grant requirements was very clear, and they asked the question, which SDG goal is your research going to accomplish? And we have to state it very clear, because immediately it orientates our mind to say, we cannot do the research in a vacuum. We do the research in the context of the SDG goals. And this, I believe, is how the world will be revolving. Likewise, when I teach in the Singapore Institute of Technology, in all our coursework, in all our courses, we ask the question, which SDG goal is your course aligned to or helping to fulfill? And again, it forces us to think from that perspective. So these are the QS and the TAME's impact on the university ranking as it is, right? Okay. So this is actually the not the QS, it's the TAME impact university ranking. University of St. Thomas, all right, you are ranked number 1, all right. University of Toronto is ranked number 1, University of Zurich is ranked number 2, and Long University is ranked number 3, all right. And so in terms of these are the left-hand side is the university overall ranking. The right-hand side are the impact sustainability. You see 3 of those universities, right? Western Sydney, Manchester, and 17 is compulsory, and then they choose the best 3 as it is. So the question we want to ask is, if University of St. Thomas, UST, you are into this time in sustainability impact ranking, which SDG would you focus? Which are your best suite as it is? And how do you want to portray yourself as a specialist in terms of the SDG goals, right? So let me talk about the sustainability commitments of universities. I think given the time, I'll run a little bit faster. I'll just showcase to you what are the things that other universities are doing. So for example, I will start off with your universities. The University of St. Thomas, right, is very, very clear, right? In the sense that the university commitment is to make lasting contribution to the achievement of the SDGs. So you are framed carefully. All right. And within each web page, within each item that you do, there is always the icon that tells you. And in fact, your rector, right, of the University of St. Thomas has already made it clear. The University of St. Thomas, the Catholic University of the Philippines, is committed to the formation of competent professionals in the service of the church, the nation, and the global community. And also, the university's efforts to help society predated the launch of the 17th part UN sustainability, as constantly implement projects and programs that promotes the values and aspirations embraced by citizens in this global village. So it is very clear, right, that you are supportive. That's what you want to do in terms of framing the whole of the university. Moving forward, all right, it also tells us, for example, recently you signed a significant MOU, right, a memorandum of a cooperation agreement in terms of advancing climate innovation and sustainability in the country. So these are things that do not have to be forced upon you, but these are things that you really want to do because you believe they're consistent with your responsibility as a university, as a global citizen to educate the young people. So this is NUS, very clear thought pattern. Our NUS president has made it very clear that advancing sustainability, development, and contributing to the global fight against climate change is one of our key missions. What do? We set examples. What do? We inspire the thousands of young men and women that we teach on how we as a community can work together to drive the changes needed in the global fight against climate change. So what do? We teach the young people what is scope 1, what is scope 2 carbon emission, how do we cool the campus outdoor corridors, how do we ease recycling, how do we bring the young people involved in innovative projects that allows them to do recycling, ask them come up with new research ideas to tackle waste, water, pollution, electricity, and what have you, right? So one of the things that we do in NUS is a campus as a living lab, making sure that in the design of the building, when we redesign building, when we basically install air conditioning, when we look at how low the temperature we want to cool the universities, what food containers do we use in our cafeteria, and so on and so forth. The entire university becomes an experimental lab for us to practice sustainability. And later on, I'll share with you, all these can happen only when the tone from the top is very clear. When the tone from the top says we need to be practitioners, we need to do what we preach, and that sets the tone for everyone. So it also involves thought leadership, right? It talks about the universities as ministries of sustainable futures. It talks about water as a victim and driver of climate crisis. It talks about floating solar farms being the key to Singapore's clean energy future. So the university take the role basically of adjusting to all these cities, take the role to shape the thinking of the society and the world that we live in. So in a student level, these are things that can be practiced in a very simple manner. Students move in and out of hostels. What do we do with all the pillows that you have, with all the things that you bought along the way? One, you can throw them all away and you'll see piles of them in the rubbish bin. Alternatively, you can think of ways to mobilize a student either through a garage sale or through giving it away or allowing the people to take whatever they want as part and parcel of the recyclable movement. NUS, NTU, very clear thought pattern, right? They want to respond and find solutions to global threats to sustainability, and they want to tackle grand challenges that the world is facing. So it actually created a sustainability manifesto. And the manifesto basically says this: they want to be carbon neutral by 2035 as it is. That means every ton of carbon dioxide that they produce, there must be ways for them to offset it, and they will offset it somehow, right, to ensure that the entire operations of the campus and the university is carbon neutral. They want to achieve 100% Green Mark Platinum certificate for all eligible buildings on the main NTU campus, meaning all new buildings as built have to comply with the 100% Green Mark Platinum certification. That means criteria ensuring that the buildings are sustainable and with all the attributes to create a building that is carbon neutral and so on and so forth. All buildings, they will have to spend money to retrofit them. You start to understand, you realize these are not just talk only, because it requires significant investment. And towards the end, I will share with you one of the major commitments in terms of sustainability is that you need to put your money where your mouth is. All right. And then, interestingly, with the expansion of the campus and activities, they want to reduce by 50% NTU's net energy utilization and waste generation. That means the more we do, the less energy we are going to consume. All right? Or the more activities we do, the less waste we want to generate. Right? And they want to do basically by March 2026, and using the 2021 as a baseline model. And interestingly, this is how NTU produced their sustainability dashboard or scorecard in 2023. All right, again, as I mentioned earlier, you measure, you set the goal. If you set the goal with no measurement, we will not know whether we're heading towards it. If you only have measurement and you don't know what is your goal, you are going nowhere as it is, right? So the important as an accountant, I would say, where do you want to go? What are your goals? And then what is a measurement to allow you to move towards where you are? If you look at some of these things, all right, they are not rocket science, right? You just need to have discipline because you always have your meter readings. You always know how much energy you produce. You always know from your waste generation and collection how many tons of waste you're collecting. All right, you can scientifically do baseline calculation concerning your carbon emission. Looking at your how many zero energy buildings or super low energy buildings you have. All these are measurable, but you need to put in your efforts as it is, right? So these are some of, again, the thought leadership that they have done, right? And it talks about the work, the research that they have been doing. So City University, where I'm currently at, as it is, right? So we're very clear. We have a mission that we're going towards a dedication of net zero emissions. We're looking into renewable energy and sustainably related strategy, all right? And we basically want to look at how we are able to fit solar panels on a campus building. And by 2034, we aim to reduce the consumption of energy and water and municipal solid waste by 40% per capita. The more we do, not to shrink our lifestyle, the less we want to produce in terms of waste, consumption of energy, and water. All these are things which are within our capability to do. And we have to decide how do you want to go about doing it. Right. So we created the Hong Kong Institute for Clean Energy. We look at the energy generation, the energy consumption, right? We participate in COP29, enhance ambition, enable action. We are in the league together with others to keep the 1.5 degrees Celsius increase within reach and to ensure that we leave no one behind. Part and parcel of the rephrasing of the SDG goals. Yeah. So the university, you have to stand for something. You have to believe. Otherwise, how are you going to educate the young people? Right? So our approach to sustainability, remember, it goes back to our basic fundamental actions, response, teaching, research, our operations, all right? And thereafter, we talk about influencing the rest of the society. So we have a very clear thought pattern that the university have a unique role and special responsibility. Number one, to model good sustainability practices. Number two, to educate all members of the campus community. And number three, to work with the government, private sector, and so on and so forth. You see, remember, without vision, the people wanders all over the place. Without vision, the people perish. So we lay down before us our approach to sustainability, and then we lead from that position. Chinese University of Hong Kong, it talks about sustainable campus, right? Being a leader again. You see, the university that I have worked with, they are very, very clear in terms of the three key things that they are responsible for: research, teaching, institutional practices. Right. These are the three things. Every global university will go back and say, we are not trying to solve the whole world's problem. We solve the sustainability issue from three of our key competency: teaching, research, institutional practices. Right? And that's where they frame the sustainability ideas. So I share with you, for example, De La Salle University, they created a university sustainability office. And the main mandate is to coordinate the whole of De La Salle University sustainability-oriented programs and initiatives. So that's one way of doing it, right? To create a sustainability office to ensure that we're able to do the whole of the university in a coordinated basis, right? What else? So let me look at the sustainability action in action for universities, right? So universities, what can we do? So having said all this framework, what can we actually do? So these are the simple things I would suggest to you as a wrap up this lecture, right? Universities and the stakeholders. You see, I created this thought pattern for you, looking at the landscape and looking at what other people have been doing. Where the internal stakeholders are very clear: our trustees, our governors, our faculty, our staff, our students. These are internal stakeholders who can see what we do every single day, who will know our hypocrisy, who will know basically whether we are just mouthing it or we are actually practicing it. That's one dimension. Then there's also the external agency, the parents, the accrediting agency, the government, our vendors, our employers, our public communities, alumni, and funding agencies. So what we're trying to do is that from the teaching, research, and community engagement perspective, the three core missions of the universities, we're trying to impact all these stakeholders, whether they are internal or external, in the dimension of sustainability. So let me strip it down for you. So in terms of teaching, right, what are we committed to? We are committed to educate the students with sustainability knowledge, all right? So you see, the university needs to continue to pivot, right? To continue to ask ourselves a question. Our curriculum is already very tight. Our program is very tight. But we know that we need to fight this sustainability better, right? What do we need to do to reform our curriculum? The starting point of reforming our curriculum is always asking the question, what do the student need to know, right? We don't need to make every student a sustainability expert, but we need to give them some foundational knowledge that those who pursue deeper can carry on. It's just like today, right? You cannot think of any accounting or business student who doesn't know how to use Excel spreadsheet, right? You see, the Excel spreadsheet must become almost a foundational knowledge for them to be able to do at least finance in terms of or statistics in terms of the business world. We ask ourselves, firstly, we are committed to the fact that all students will have some sustainability knowledge. That means the student must be able to have a dialogue. What is scope 1? What is scope 2? What is scope 3 in terms of carbon emission, carbon dioxide emission as it is? So once we have this, then we articulate the articulation of important sustainability knowledge in programs, curriculum, design, and courses, right? Top level, we say that this is what we want as important. Then the action plan is to incorporate sustainability knowledge in programs, curriculum design, and courses. And then we measure how these are being done. And finally, we measure the impact of knowledge. Right. So that's what we did in the Singapore Institute of Technology. We arrive at a point where we say, right, whether they're engineering students, whether they are physiotherapists, whether they are accountancy students, we need all of them to have some understanding of sustainability. So what we did was we go back to all the programs and layer a sustainability 101. The fundamental knowledge within the context of their so-called domain expertise. That means sustainability in the context of physiotherapy, sustainability in the context of accounting, sustainability in the context of civil engineering. That means immediately we level them upwards, right, as a starting point. So what else do? We basically make this into a requirement in the Singapore Institute of Technology for all students to be taught the basics of sustainability. And thereafter, we have sustainability focused modules like carbon accounting, sustainability reporting, designing sustainable system, and sustainable energy, depending on whether the students want to pursue this as part of the domain expertise or out of interest or out of the fact that they are so-called responsible owners of the world and they want to learn more about this. We create projects in green building design, in renewable energy solutions. We will teach them, for example, what are green bonds? How do you issue green bonds? How are green bonds different from other bonds in cities? We look at sustainable food system through student industry collaboration and what have you. So I'll give you a simple example. So I was tasked basically as an accountant to say, all right, what do we need to do to put sustainability into the accounting? So we have multiple things that we want to do. So what did we choose? I decided to say, all right, I will relearn carbon accounting. So these are some of the learning objectives we have. In this particular course, we taught in terms of carbon accounting. After successful completing, you should be able to explain the implications of the greenhouse effect. You explain the concept and key components in carbon accounting. You learn how to apply the measurement and calculation in carbon accounting. You understand the concept of monetizing carbon emission. You explore various sustainability reporting standards. You understand and apply the GRI and ISSB standards. And you evaluate and analyze sustainability reports based on the established sustainability framework. So these are the first 3 weeks of lecture that I teach, right? I introduce them to greenhouse. I teach them the concept of carbon accounting. I teach them the carbon footprint. It was painful for me as a faculty. I have to relearn everything. But remember, we have a commitment. Our commitment and our belief is that if our students, accounting students, know carbon accounting and know sustainability reporting and so on and so forth, when they hit the marketplace, my students will be valuable. All right? They will have an edge over other traditional universities per se. So this was a study that was published. A team of us did this study for the Institute of Singapore Chartered Accountants. I given a copy to your dean as it is, all right, to be shared among all the faculty. So we did a study and asked how much ESG are being taught in the accounting program in the the 5 key universities in Singapore that has accounting program. And this is basically the summary of the content. Currently, we're sitting about 3%. And NTU being having a sustainability and analytics accounting program, 10% of its curriculum actually is dedicated on sustainability. So when we ask ourselves, what are the ESG knowledge we're talking about? Corporate governance, corporate social responsibility, environmental carbon accounting, environmental management accounting scope and dimension, and sustainability reporting. You can do exactly the same for engineering, for science, or whatever discipline that you have. Remember, whatever you don't measure, you really don't know whether you're doing anything in that space. So with the publication of this report, actually it forces all the university to rethink and ask ourselves the question, can we do more to incorporate ESG into our entire curriculum and program? Interestingly, we do a benchmark study also using the Hong Kong University too, because the Hong Kong University is closest to us in terms of accounting knowledge. And the Hong Kong University being a substantial education hub, likewise, is also emphasizing ESG. And you see the common trend in terms of all of us trying to become competitive to prepare the best of our students. Right? So how about research? Research has to deal with in terms of investment and encouragement in research in sustainability. That means you have to set aside quota, you set aside money. You have to ask the faculty when they apply for research grants, how is your research linked to the SDG goals? It cannot be just, this is what I like to do, this is what the industry needs, or these are new knowledge, these are exciting things. You see, right now it forces us to think, these are exciting thing in the context of making the world a better place, and we use the SDG as a framework. So these are some of the initiatives that's done. Poly University of Hong Kong, they set up a research institute for sustainable urban development. Ateneo de Manila University on renewable energy. City University on Institute of Clean Energy. NUS Environment Research Institute. NUS Sustainable and Green Finance Institute. Even the accounting world, the financial is not let off, because there are many things we can do there. Nanyang Environment and Water Research Institute. And there are also, like I shared with you recently, I applied for a research grant through one of the Malaysian universities where I was invited to work alongside with them. And the study that we did was very simple. Beyond the swipe, unveiling the forces of shaping buy now, pay later usage at its dark sides. What were the 2 SDG that we are trying to fulfill in our research? SDG 8 and 12. 8 is decent work and economic growth, and 12 is responsible consumption and production. Immediately, that frame our research work as it is, all right? See, to me, that's exciting as a faculty, right? So in terms of community engagement, what the university need to do is to structure programs to engage community or to impact community with sustainability initiatives. For example, SIT, we have projects in green building design, we have renewable energy solutions and sustainable food system through student industry collaboration. What do? We work in the industries. right? We work at SMEs. SIT has a brand new Hongkong campus, and it was designed with a net zero energy campus with solar panels, state efficiency design, recycling on campus, very little car is allowed to go in, and food waste management. That means we designed the whole campus with the thought pattern of sharing this whole with the community, that it can be done as it is. It can be car light, it can be energy efficient, it can be basically fully using in terms of recycling and food waste kept a minimum. NUS, NTU, SMU, they're all doing similar work and starting sustainability related courses, solar energy system, and food waste management initiatives. So they send their students into the community. They pick up project from the industry as it is that allows the student to use what is so-called the energy, the creativity to craft sustainable solution. They create hackathons to allow students to so-called to do ideation in terms of what they can do for sustainability. So for example, De La Salle University implemented a zero waste management program and encourages the use of electric vehicles on campus. So I use another example, right? University of Philippines, Los Banos, work on agroecology and sustainable farming. Right? So they make use of whatever their best in is, and basically reframe it and say, these are things that we can do that's consistent with our teaching, consistent with research, consistent with our natural endowment and what we can do best. See this. So allow me to finish and wrap up this segment. In terms of conclusion, universities have a substantial role in imparting sustainability knowledge and practices. I would like to suggest, in all my experiences, the tone starts from the top. The university leadership has to deem this as an important contribution and accord it a priority. When they accord it a priority, what it means is that they have to invest in sustainability. If they invest in sustainability, is only the money part. They need to invest it also with the brain part, the strategic plans. And ultimately, they also have to deal with implementation on the ground. You see what I mean, right? So long as the university leadership is lackluster or they are indifferent, you're not going to go anywhere. It is very hard for ground-up movement in terms of sustainability. You can do it usually in crisis time, right? The reason is because we have so many other things to do. If the top basically says this is where we want to align our fundings, this is where we want to align our teaching, the pack will follow. And I'd like to suggest that the university must engage the faculty in teaching and research in sustainability. You cannot just leave it to them. You have to ask them, what do they need? What training do you need to do? So for example, when I do carbon accounting, it's like old dog learning new tricks, and it's very tough, right? But because I have the opportunity and time to invest in that space, to restudy, to attend conference, to attend talks, to attend training, that allows me to re-equip myself to move into a new zone as it is, right? Where the university allows faculty that kind of space and breadth and resources to re-equip themselves in teaching and research in sustainability, that is the wrong question. The right question is, what other option do you have? Right. And finally, university must be seen as an example for sustainability in terms of the operations, the way we operate our canteen, our hostels, in the way that we source our vendors, we engage our stakeholders and our community impact. I would like to close off with this green thought pattern. The success of stakeholder engagement of sustainability by universities will ultimately be known. That is, we will be judged by its fruits and impact. Remember, the Bible says the tree, whether it's good or bad, will always be judged by the fruits that it produces. So that will always be evident. And I'd like to suggest to any game playing will be uncovered in due time by validation on the ground. In the sense that you can actually say, I go along with everyone else. Since it's a sustainability game, let's play it. But you need to understand at some point in time, all right, the game will stop now, and you have to produce the fruits to justify what you have been saying. For example, I want to be net zero in 2030. And if you have not done anything in the next 5 years, you will never reach net zero and no one will believe you. These are what we so call the day of reckoning as it is. Right? So with this, I want to stop here and thank you very much for listening to my sharing. Thank you very much.